Savannah Lynn stood frozen outside the tower and glass facade of Orion Technologies. Her leather folio clutched her chest like armor. The morning sun cast golden reflections off the Seattle skyline, dancing across the building's sleek windows. The city shimmered with confidence. Savannah felt none of it. At 24, she had built a quiet, insulated career as a freelance back-end developer thriving in solitude, managing complex systems from the safety of her studio apartment. For 3 years, her clients only knew her as a name on a screen, a voice in a video call, or an email signature signed with warm regards. Today, all of that changed. It was her first day as a full-time employee at one of the most prestigious tech firms on the West Coast. Full-time, in person, at Orion Technologies. Her reflection in the glass doors stared back at her, petite, her long black hair pulled into a disciplined ponytail. Dressed in a navy blue blazer and matching pencil skirt she had agonized over choosing. She looked competent, maybe even confident, but the fluttering panic in her stomach said otherwise. Savannah drew in a deep breath. It didn't help. Her knees still felt weak. She pushed through the doors anyway. The lobby that welcomed her was vast and glassy, designed to make visitors feel like they'd stepped into the future. Marble floors, minimalist art, and a scent she couldn't name clean, expensive, intimidating. She barely had time to take it in before a crisp voice sliced through the air. Savannah Lynn, a woman called from across the space. Savannah turned to see a tall, impeccably dressed woman striding toward her with the confidence of someone who never second-guessed her decisions. Blonde hair tied into a sleek bun, heels clicking like punctuation marks. "I'm Michelle Grant from Human Resources," she said, extending a hand. "Welcome to Orion. You ready for your big day?" Savannah nodded. Speaking felt impossible. Michelle smiled. All polite professionalism with just enough edge to make Savannah feel like she was already being assessed. "Wonderful," Michelle said. "Let's get you settled. Then we'll review your orientation schedule. And later today you'll be presenting your optimization pitch to the executive board." Savannah's heart dropped. She hadn't forgotten about the presentation she rehearsed it over and over, but hearing it spoken aloud made her throat close. As they stepped into the elevator, Michelle chatted about company benefits and team culture, but the words blurred together as Savannah tried to swallow her rising dread. "Development teams on the 15th floor," Michelle said brightly. "But first stop is floor 20, the executive suite. Your presentation is scheduled for 12:30. The elevator ride felt endless and yet far too short. Savannah's fingers trembled as she clutched her folio tighter. This wasn't the kind of work she feared. It was the people, the pressure, the feeling of every pair of eyes on her, waiting to decide if she was brilliant or a mistake. The doors opened onto the 15th floor, buzzing with energy. The development floor was alive with quiet conversation and the soft clack of keyboards. Programmers sat at multiple monitor setups, deep in code. The hum of productivity. Michelle led her to a desk near a window. "This is your station," she said. "We'll get your credentials sorted. Then you'll meet the team." Savannah barely had time to sit before she heard a cheerful voice behind her. "You must be our new optimization specialist." She turned to see a young man about her age, tall with copper-red curls and a smile that made his whole face light up. "I'm Noah Ellis," he said. "Senior Dev. I've heard great things about you." "Thanks," Savannah murmured, voice barely audible. Noah didn't flinch. He just smiled wider. "Don't sweat the nerves. Everyone's overwhelmed on day one. I heard you've got the exec presentation this afternoon." Savannah nodded. "You'll crush it," he said, leaning casually on the partition. "The code samples you submitted were insanely clean. You have a gift." A tiny flicker of warmth flared in her chest. It vanished quickly as she remembered the looming meeting. The morning vanished in a blur. System access requests, documentation, backend structure walkthroughs. Savannah tried to focus, but her eyes kept drifting to the time. Noon. Michelle returned. "Ready for the boardroom?" she asked, clipboard in hand. I have a few more minutes?" Savannah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michelle studied her, then nodded. "Of course, but don't overthink it. They're excited to meet you. Your optimization model is exactly what we need for our upcoming release. When they arrived at the 20th floor, Savannah felt like she'd stepped into another world. The conference room was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a breathtaking view of downtown Seattle. A long oval table stretched across the space, surrounded by people who looked like they belonged in Forbes magazine. Savannah recognized a few faces from the company's chief technology officer, head of product. Others she couldn't place. But one chair at the head of the table was empty. She was connecting her laptop to the projector when the door opened. "Apologies, everyone. The airport traffic was brutal," said a voice behind her. She turned, her breath caught. This wasn't just the CEO. This was Adrian Wolf. She had studied his LinkedIn profile and watched interviews. None of them prepared her for seeing him in person. He was taller than she expected, at least 6'2", with thick, dark hair that looked like he'd just run his fingers through it, and warm, intelligent eyes the color of coffee. His tailored charcoal suit looked effortless on him, and the moment he stepped into the room, the entire atmosphere shifted. "You must be Savannah," he said, lowering himself into the head chair. His tone was calm, but focused, like she was the only thing in the room worth noticing. "I've been looking forward to hearing your ideas." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her throat constricted. She cleared it, panicked. "Thank you, Mr. Wolf," she whispered. He tilted his head. "Could you speak up? I don't want to miss anything." Her face flamed with embarrassment. She felt all eyes on her, the heat rising from her chest to her ears. This was her worst nightmare, but she couldn't escape now. Savannah took a breath. "Of course," she said, louder this time. "Let me begin with the current system architecture and the bottlenecks identified." As she clicked to the first slide, she risked a glance at Adrian. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't impatient. He was watching her like what she said mattered. And for some reason, that steadied her. "Our current database query structure processes requests in a linear chain," she said, "which causes significant lag during high load periods." Her voice strengthened with each word. She moved to the next Lydia flowchart of asynchronous threading models. "My algorithm introduces parallel processing for independent queries. It's shown to reduce latency by 60% during peak usage." The CTO leaned forward. "How did you verify stability?" Savannah's heart surged. This she could answer. "I built a simulation environment and ran tests using anonymized real-world data," she said. "Stress-tested performance held under triple our current usage rates." By the time she concluded explaining rollback protocols, integration phases, and minimal risk mitigation, room had gone quiet. Then Adrian spoke. "Savannah," he said, just her name, but something in the way he said it made her lift her eyes to meet his. "This is outstanding work," he said. "You not only diagnosed our issue, but delivered a fully mapped, sustainable solution." "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled down that was warm, not corporate. "I just have one question," he added. She braced herself. "When can we start?" Savannah blinked. "You want to implement it, not just implement it," the CTO cut in. "We want you to lead the project." As the others left the room, Savannah packed her laptop in a daze. It had gone better than she dared dream. Adrian lingered. "Can I ask you something?" he said. She nodded. "How long have you been afraid of public speaking?" Her throat tightened. The question was too intimate, too honest, and somehow exactly what she needed to hear. "Always," she said softly. "I'm better with code than people." Adrian stepped closer, not as a CEO, but as something gentler. "Can I tell you what I saw today?" he said. She didn't respond, but her eyes didn't leave his. "I saw someone who showed up scared and did it anyway." That's courage, Savannah. Not the absence of fear, but the determination to keep going in spite of it. Something shifted in her chest. No one had ever called her brave. "You belong here," Adrian added, his voice like silk wrapped in steel. "You've earned your place, and I hope that, with time, you'll feel free to let the rest of you shine too." Savannah stood there, her folio pressed to her chest, her heart pounding. For the first time in years, The idea of being seen didn't feel terrifying. It felt possible. 3 weeks had passed since Savannah Lynn stepped into Orion Technologies as a full-time employee, and everything about her life had shifted. Her optimization project had already completed its first implementation phase, and the results were beyond even her cautious estimates. Performance had improved by nearly 70% across multiple product platforms. Server loads had decreased. User experience scores were rising. What she had created in solitude, late at night with caffeine and code, was now reshaping an entire tech ecosystem. And yet, the most unexpected part of her new reality wasn't the technical success. It was him, Adrian Wolf. He wasn't just the CEO anymore, not to her. Since that first day, something had changed. He'd made time for her, spoken to her as if she were his equal, seen her when she felt invisible, and over the last 3 weeks, that quiet attention had grown into something she couldn't name. It felt deep in her chest every time he stepped into view. She hadn't meant to fall into a rhythm with him. It just happened. It began the Monday after her presentation. She was waiting for her usual coffee in the lobby cafeteria to clear her head before diving into code when she heard the unmistakable voice behind her. "The usual for me, Sophia," Adrian said smoothly to the barista. "And whatever the lady in front of me is having." Savannah nearly dropped her phone. "You don't have to do that," she said, turning. Adrian smiled, that warm, easy smile that made her breath catch. "Too late. Consider it a thank you for saving us all from system latency hell." She flushed. "It was just a vanilla latte." "Then I'll have one too," he said, nodding to the barista. "Let's normalize celebrating technical victories with good coffee." The barista softened them both a slight grin. "Mr. Wolf treating someone, that's a headline." Adrian laughed. "Sophia's convinced she's the company matchmaker." "She's probably right," Sophia said, handing them their drinks. "And I think this one might finally stick." Savannah's blush deepened, but Adrian simply raised an eyebrow, then turned to her. "Walk with me." She nodded, and they exited the building side by side. The Seattle morning air was crisp, but not cold. They wandered around the block in quiet conversation, dodging cyclists and slow-moving pedestrians. Adrian seemed to walk slower with her, more relaxed, as if he wasn't a man in charge of a multi-billion-dollar company, but just someone who wanted to understand her. "So," he asked gently, "how are you settling in? Not just the project, everything." Savannah hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "It's different from freelancing, but a good kind of different. Noah's been great at helping me learn the internal systems. And the other devs, well, they actually listen." "They should," Adrian said, glancing sideways. "Your ideas are better than most I've heard in years." She gave a small, uncertain smile. "That's kind of you to say." "I'm not kind," he said with a smirk. "I'm accurate." His tone was teasing, but there was something behind earnestness, maybe, or admiration. "I still get nervous," Savannah admitted. "It's hard, knowing if something goes wrong now, it affects hundreds of people, not just one client." Adrian nodded, quiet for a moment. They stopped at a crosswalk. "I know that fear," he said. "Every choice I make could impact people's jobs, livelihoods, lives. Sometimes, the weight of it feels unbearable." Savannah turned to look at him. "But you always seem so certain." He smiled faintly. "That's part of the job. People need to believe you're sure, even when you're not. But that's why I respect what you did even more. You didn't fake confidence. You trusted your work to speak for you." They reached the building again, but neither moved to go inside. "Savannah," Adrian said softly, "can I ask something personal?" She froze, heart pounding. "Okay, what made you leave freelancing?" he asked. "I know you said in the interview you wanted to be part of something bigger, but what really made you come here?" Savannah's throat tightened. She looked away, watching employees stream into the building. "I was lonely," she said finally. "Not just personally, professionally. I'd build elegant solutions to complex problems, and there was no one to share that with. No one who saw it and understood what it meant." She turned to him, meeting his eyes. I wanted to matter, to be part of a team that builds something together, something no one person could do alone. Adrian held her gaze for a long moment. And is it what you hoped it would be? Savannah's smile was hesitant but real. It's better. There was silence, comfortable, electric silence. I'm not just asking as your boss, Adrian said at last. Something fluttered in her chest. She didn't ask what he meant. Not yet. Inside the building, others were starting to notice. There goes the CEO again. Sophia Kim from marketing whispered. She was sipping her tea near the front window, watching as Adrian and Savannah entered together. That's the third coffee run this week, added Ben from accounting. I mean, it's fine, Sophia said quickly. She's brilliant. But come on, Adrian Wilf doesn't do daily check-ins. Near the elevators, Noah overheard and frowned. Savannah's project is exceeding every expectation. She earned every second of his attention. Not saying she didn't, Ben said, but you have to admit the vibe's different. Noah didn't argue. He couldn't deny what he saw. Adrian didn't look at other employees the way he looked at Savannah, but instead of jealousy, Noah felt something like protectiveness. He liked Savannah, respected her, and he hoped whatever this waste had, it was real and not just another office power imbalance waiting to implode. By Friday, the optimization system was fully live. The final rollout was seamless. No downtime, no bugs. At noon, Savannah heard her name called from across the floor. Conference room 3, now, Dr. Harper Lynn, the chief technology officer, said briskly. Her stomach flipped. What went wrong? When she stepped into the room, she froze. Adrian was there. So were several other department heads. She slid into the seat farthest from the table. Dr. Lynn began without preamble. In 15 years, I've never seen a system improve company performance this dramatically within 3 weeks of implementation. Savannah blinked. So it's working. Adrian chuckled. Savannah, it's not just working. Our largest client renewed their contract 2 years early because of the improvement. They cited your system specifically. Savannah's mouth opened, but no words came out. We want to expand the scope of your work, Dr. Lang continued. How would you feel about leading your own team? Savannah's heart stuttered. I've only been here 3 weeks. Sometimes, Adrian said, locking eyes with her. 3 weeks is all it takes to recognize brilliance. Her chest swelled with emotion, fear, excitement, something she hadn't let herself believe she was worthy of leadership. And yet here it was. That evening, Noah insisted they go out for drinks to celebrate. They ended up at a trendy rooftop bar in Capitol Hill. Fairy lights twinkled above, and the music was just loud enough to be exciting, but not overwhelming. To Savannah Lynn, Noah declared, raising his beer, who walked in whispering and now runs half the company. Savannah laughed. Hardly. Seriously, you're not just smart, you're focused, thoughtful, the kind of person who speaks when there's something worth saying. Savannah smiled, touched. Then Noah paused. Can I ask something? You don't have to answer. She tensed. Okay, what's going on between you and Adrian? Savannah blinked. Nothing. He's just been supportive. Noah gave her a look. I've been here 3 years. Adrian Wolf is a great CEO, but he doesn't do supportive. Not like that. Her cheeks warmed. How does he look at me? She whispered. Noah's smile was kind, like he can't believe you're real. The weekend after her promotion passed in a blur of questions Savannah couldn't answer. Noah's words from the rooftop bar echoed in her head like a looping soundtrack. Like he can't believe you're real. She had laughed it off in the moment, but she hadn't stopped thinking about it since. She tried to convince herself that Adrian Wilf's attention was just gratitude, a mentor guiding a rising star, nothing more, except he didn't look at anyone else the way he looked at her, and she didn't react to anyone else the way she reacted to him. Her heart had a specific stutter reserved only for his presence. Her stomach performed Olympic-level flips whenever he stood too close, spoke too softly, or smiled too sincerely. By Monday morning, Savannah couldn't avoid it any longer. She needed clarity. She took the elevator straight to the 20th floor before she could change her mind. Adrian's assistant looked up in surprise. Savannah, do you have a meeting scheduled? No, but I was hoping Mr. Wilf might have a few minutes. I'd like to thank him for the promotion and discuss ideas for the new department. Give me a second. The assistant pressed the intercom. Mr. Wilf, Savannah Lynn is here. A pause. Then, send her in. Savannah stepped into his office. Adrian stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the cloudy Seattle skyline. He turned as the door clicked shut. When he saw her, his face lit up. Congratulations again, Savannah, he said. How are you feeling about leading your own division? She gave a half smile, terrified and exhilarated. Good combination, he said warmly. But I get the feeling that's not what brought you here. No, she said, voice tighter than she intended. It's not. He gestured to the two chairs near the bookshelf in informal space, far more inviting than his desk. She sat, then stood again immediately, too restless to stay seated. I need to ask you something, she blurted, and I hope it doesn't cross the line. Adrian's expression remained calm, but his eyes sharpened. Ask anything. She turned toward him, heart thundering. Are you treating me differently? She asked. Because I need to know if I'm being given opportunities out of pity, or if people are whispering that I didn't earn what I've been given. Savannah, I know I'm new. I know people are watching. I hear things about how you've never had daily check-ins with anyone before, about the coffee, the walks, about how close, how often we. She trailed off, breath shallow. Adrian stood slowly, stepping forward until they were face to face. Can I be completely honest with you? He asked. She nodded. Her throat was too tight for words. Yes, he said. I'm treating you differently. Her breath hitched. But not because you need help. Not because you're unqualified. Not because I think you can't handle the job. He ran a hand through his hair, something in his calm composure finally cracking. I'm treating you differently, he continued. Because from the first moment you walked into that boardroom, you were the most compelling person I've met in years. Savannah's eyes widened. You're brilliant, he said, but not just brilliant. You're real. You don't perform. You don't manipulate. You walk into a room and somehow make everyone else want to rise to your level. I don't just admire your work. I admire you. Her legs gave out, and she sat hard in the chair behind her. Adrian moved slowly, kneeling down so they were eye level. I tried to ignore it, he admitted. Tried to tell myself it was just admiration, but it's not. He paused. I'm attracted to you, Savannah, completely, entirely, not just your mind, though that alone would have done me in, but the way you talk, the way you listen, the way you furrow your brow when you're deep in thought, the way you light up when you solve something impossible. Savannah stared at him. The walls she had carefully built around herself, walls of professionalism, detachment, wrought and crumbled in silence. No one's ever said anything like that to me before, she whispered. Adrian reached out, brushed a thumb against her cheek with reverence. Then they haven't been paying attention. Silence, long and aching. I know this complicates things, he said finally. There's a power dynamic. There are ethics, reputations, gossip. I don't want to risk your job, your confidence, your future here, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way. Savannah's heart felt too big for her chest. She couldn't breathe, couldn't look away from him. I thought I was imagining it, she said softly. The way you looked at me, the way you always made time. I kept telling myself I was projecting. You weren't. I don't have experience with this kind of thing, she admitted. Romance, relationships. I've always been more comfortable with code than with people. Adrian smiled gently. I figured that out when you asked for extra time to prep your first presentation. They both left, softly, and something eased between them. I don't know what to do, Savannah said. I'm terrified. Of what? Of not being enough for you, she said. Of messing this up. Of people thinking I didn't earn anything I've achieved. Of you breaking my heart. Adrian's expression grew serious. He cupped her face fully in both hands. "Savannah Lynn," he said, "you earned your promotion with your talent and hard work. Period. Anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me. As for your heart, no one can make promises about the future. But I can tell you this, I would never break it lightly. I would never take you for granted." Tears filled her eyes, but they didn't fall. They shimmered instead hopeful, not broken. "I think," she said slowly, "I'm already falling." Adrian leaned forward and kissed her forehead, his lips lingering. "Good," he murmured, "because I've already fallen." Dating the CEO of one of Seattle's top tech companies while building a new department wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. Adrian was meticulous about boundaries. During work hours, he was all business respectful, professional, distant enough to quell suspicion, but never cold. They didn't hold hands. They didn't exchange knowing glances in meetings. They didn't leave the office at the same time. But after hours, they were fire. They'd sneak late-night takeout into his office, eating Thai noodles on the couch under the moonlight. They sent coded messages over the company's internal chat, using project metaphors to say things they couldn't say aloud. They planned future coding initiatives with shared spreadsheets and quiet smiles. They talked about everything past heartbreaks, childhood fears, career aspiration, and what it meant to truly be seen by someone else. Savannah had never known a connection like this. She had never expected love to feel safe. "I still can't believe you chose me," she whispered once, curled on his couch with her legs tucked under her. "I didn't choose you," Adrian replied, tracing circles on her knee. "I fell for you. It wasn't a decision. It just happened." She looked at him. "And if it all crashes down, then we rebuild," he said simply. Together, Monday morning started with a storm not outside, but inside Orion Technologies. Savannah barely made it to her desk before her senior developer, Marcus Reed, appeared at her side, looking like he hadn't slept. "Thank God you're here," he said, clutching a tablet. "We've got a situation, a big one." Savannah straightened. "What happened?" "Hendrix Solutions," Marcus said grimly. "Their systems rejecting our optimization protocols. They're threatening to terminate the contract unless we fix it by end of business today." Her stomach dropped. Hendrix Solutions was Orion's second largest client. Their satisfaction had been pivotal in getting Savannah the budget to build her optimization team. Losing them would be a catastrophe not just for the company, but for Savannah's credibility. "Okay," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "Show me everything." For the next 6 hours, her team operated in full crisis mode. Whiteboards filled with diagrams, monitors glowed with crashing simulations. Coffee cups piled up as they worked through every possible scenario. The problem wasn't with her algorithm, it was with Hendrix's outdated infrastructure. Their legacy systems couldn't interpret certain optimization layers that Orion's tools used, something their test environments hadn't accounted for. By early afternoon, Savannah had narrowed the issue to 3 potential solutions, but none of them could be fully tested and deployed before the looming 5 p.m. deadline. And then came the summons. "Nowhere," she said, barely looking up from her screen. "Did you say Adrian wanted to see me?" Noah nodded grimly. "He's already on a video call with Hendrix's CEO. You're supposed to join them in conference room 4. Her throat tightened. This was exactly what she had feared, her first major misstep. And in front of Adrian, no less. She swallowed hard and stood. Margot Hendrix was as formidable as her reputation suggested. In her 60s, razor sharp, and completely immune to excuses. Her voice came through the speaker like a scalpel. "Miss Lynn," she said, arms folded. "I understand you're responsible for the optimization system that's currently rendering my employees unable to perform their tasks." Savannah's mouth went dry. She felt Adrian's eyes on her, but didn't dare look his way. "I take full responsibility," Savannah said clearly, "and I want to assure you that my team is doing everything possible to resolve the issue." "Doing everything," Margot said, unimpressed, "isn't enough. I need results. Today." "Are we walk?" Adrian leaned forward slightly. "Margot," but Savannah raised a hand gently, cutting him off. She turned to the large touchscreen at the front of the room, loaded with her diagnostic charts. "Miss Hendricks," she said, "the integration issue stems from specific legacy code in your framework issue that wasn't reflected in our sandbox simulations. But I have 3 solutions, each with trade-offs." She began to outline them methodically, confidently. Option 1. Revert Hendrix's system to pre-optimization protocols temporarily, while building a custom integration layer. Estimated full restoration, 90 minutes. Downside, 30% performance regression. Option 2. Rewrite parts of Orion's optimization architecture to accommodate Hendrix's environmental longer-term fix, but slower. Option 3. A phased hybrid rollout using modified patch layers, slower to implement and riskier to test. When she finished, the room fell silent. Margot stared at the screen, arms still crossed. "This is the most detailed response I've heard since this contract began," she said at last. "I want option 1, starting immediately, and I want weekly check-ins directly with you, Ms. Lynn. No account managers, no intermediaries." Savannah blinked. "Me? You seem to know what you're doing," Margot replied. "I'd rather speak to the engineer who solves problems than the one who writes reports." Savannah nodded slowly. "Understood. I'll give you full transparency throughout the rebuild." "Good," Margot said. "We'll expect the rollback by 5. The call ended. Savannah exhaled, but she barely had time to process before Adrian turned to her and pulled her into a firm, unexpected hug. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "You just saved a multi-million-dollar contract." Savannah sagged against him, the weight of adrenaline hitting all at once. "I think I agreed to lead weekly calls with a woman who terrifies me." "You did," he said with a laugh, "and you'll crush it." "But what if?" "Savannah, you were brilliant." News of the Hendrix crisis and Savannah's calm technical diplomacy spread like wildfire. By the next day, whispers had shifted tones entirely. "Did you hear how she handled Hendrix?" one developer said near the break room. "Direct access to the CEO of a client that size? That's serious leadership cred," someone replied. Dr. Harper Lynn herself stopped by Savannah's desk Friday morning. "I just got off the phone with Margot Hendrix," she said without preamble. "She said you're the kind of leader Orion should be building its future around." Savannah blinked. "That's kind of her." "No, Savannah, that's historic. Hendrix never compliments anyone." Dr. Lynn sat down beside her, unusually solemn. "You've been here less than 2 months," she said, "but you've already proven something most people never do. I want to talk to you about your long-term future here, starting with a path to senior management." Savannah felt lightheaded. "Are you serious? As serious as a server crash in production?" Dr. Lynn said. "We'll discuss it more next week. Just think about where you see yourself in 5 years. Because we see you at the top." That night, Savannah and Adrian met at their usual Thai place, their secret oasis, far from boardrooms and buzzing phones. She sat across from him, her pad thai half-eaten. "I still can't believe what Dr. Lynn said," she murmured. "I can," Adrian said, sliding a cold beer toward her. "You've done more in 6 weeks than most VPs do in a year. I feel like I'm still catching my breath. One moment I'm saving a contract, the next I'm being groomed for executive leadership." Adrian leaned forward. "How do you feel about it?" "I want it," she said without hesitation. "Not for the title, but for the chance to build something important, to lead the way I wish someone had led me." He smiled. "Then we'll make it happen." Savannah hesitated, then added, "But I'm scared of how this might affect us." Adrian's brow furrowed slightly. "If I become AVP," she said, "people will talk about how I got here, about us." "They already talk," he said gently, "but that doesn't mean they're right." She nodded. "Still, it's hard. Feeling like I have to prove myself twice as hard to be taken seriously." "You've already proven yourself," he said. "Now, the only thing left to do is build your legacy." Then, he reached across the table and took her hand. "And I'll be beside you every step of the way." The quarterly company-wide meeting was one of Orion Technology's grandest internal events, live-streamed across regional offices, held in a massive hall with a stage, lights, and camera crews. a space where rising stars were spotlighted and department updates showcased success metrics. For the first time, Savannah Lynn stood center stage. She wore a tailored burgundy blouse, high-waisted black slacks, and a microphone discreetly clipped to her color. Her newly assembled optimization team sat near the front row, pride evident in their eyes. She could feel Noah's supportive smile. Dr. Lynn's steady presence seen somewhere a few rows back. Adrienne Wolf watching. As she stepped into the spotlight, her heart thudded, but her hands didn't tremble. "Good morning, everyone," she began clearly. "I'm Savannah Lynn, and I'm here to share how system optimization has transformed our performance benchmarks." Her presentation was confident and efficient, loaded with graphs, load time comparisons, and before and after statistics. She received 2 rounds of spontaneous applause before she'd even reached her closing remarks. Then came the open Q&A. A woman from marketing raised her hand. "What's been the most difficult part of transitioning from working solo to leading a team?" Savannah paused thoughtfully, then smiled. "Learning to trust," she said. "When you freelance, you carry everything. You control every variable. But in a team, you have to trust that others care as much as you don't. When they do, you get to build something far greater than what you could ever build alone." As she finished her answer, her gaze drifted instinct to Adrienne. Their eyes met, and for a moment, something unspoken pulsed between them. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't flirtatious. It was reverent and visible. Jake, seated 2 rows behind Adrienne, caught it. So did Sophia Kim. So did Ben from accounting. The air shifted. After the presentation, colleagues swarmed Savannah with congratulations. She answered questions about methodology, upcoming sprints, and feature release schedules. But the moment that sealed everything happened quietly. In a pocket of space behind the curtain, Adrienne approached, clapping slowly. "Excellent presentation, Ms. Lynn," he said professionally. Savannah turned, beaming. "Thank you, Mr. Wolf." Their smiles were warm, familiar, and just close enough to draw attention from a few lingering employees near the exit. Jake, now observing from the wings, raised an eyebrow and approached them. "Hey, sorry to interrupt," he said casually, "but I have to ask, are you two dating?" Savannah's face flushed crimson. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again with no sound. Before she could speak, Adrienne stepped closer and answered without hesitation. "We are," gasps, paused conversations, and a camera crew member who pretended not to hear, but clearly heard everything. Adrienne's tone was calm but commanding, and before anyone suggests otherwise, let me be perfectly clear: Savannah's role, her promotion, and her leadership are results of her brilliance and drive, not our relationship. No one challenged him, but the whispers had begun. Savannah had expected to feel panic, shame, anxiety, but standing beside Adrienne, something entirely different flooded her instead. Relief. They had stopped hiding. That evening, she found herself walking home instead of driving, needing the cool air, the rhythmic pattern of her boots on the sidewalk, the space to think. Adrienne called her around 7 p.m. "How are you holding up?" he asked softly. Savannah hesitated, relieved, exposed, a little like, "I just walked into work naked." Adrienne chuckled. "That would certainly cause a stir. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to happen like that." "Me either, but I don't regret it." "Do you?" Savannah leaned against a street lamp, her scarf pulled tighter. "No," she said honestly. "I don't. I meant what I said," Adrienne told her. "Anyone who doubts your credibility clearly hasn't been paying attention." "Thank you. I know it's going to be bumpy," he added. "We'll get questions, judgment, maybe even internal blowback. I can handle it," Savannah said, and the best part, Wash actually believed it. By Wednesday, the entire company knew. Some offered congratulations, some offered side glances, some offered nothing but silence. HR sent a formal request for disclosure documents. Adrienne and Savannah filled them out together, seated at his desk like co-captains of a ship navigating policy waves. The company's legal counsel scheduled a review. PR sent an internal memo about ethics and transparency. But through it all, Savannah stood firm. She didn't apologize. She didn't minimize. When asked directly by her team, she answered with honesty and calm. Yes, I'm in a relationship with Mr. Wolf. Yes, it's recent. No, it has not influenced any of my professional responsibilities or opportunities. And if you ever feel differently, I expect you to tell me. Noah grinned. You're actually a badass. You know that? She smiled, just trying to lead the way I'd want to be led. 2 weeks later, Savannah received an official offer, the title of Vice President of System Optimization. She stared at the email in disbelief. Adrian, sitting beside her at home, legs tangled with hers on the couch, takeout containers on the floor, watched her read it with quiet pride. You're the youngest VP in Orion history, he said. Savannah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Then jump, Adrian whispered. You've got wings. The title on Savannah Lynn's new office door read, Vice President of System Optimization. She stared at it for a full 30 seconds on her first day in the role, not because she doubted it was real, but because it felt like stepping into a life that, 6 months ago, she'd never have believed could belong to her. Inside, the office was spacious, but understated list walls, a whiteboard full of sketched architecture updates, and a view of downtown Seattle glittering in the afternoon sun. Her new assistant, Dana, had placed a simple ceramic planner on the windowsill with a small sticky note. Welcome to the top floor. You've earned it. Savannah smiled faintly. She wanted to feel triumphant, victorious, and touchable, but what she felt instead was the pressure, real pressure. Her calendar was already stacked for weeks: departmental reviews, cross-functional strategy sessions, and now, a new responsibility Adrian had handed her personally: lead technical negotiations with Titangate Systems, a cloud infrastructure partner whose renewal deal could make or break Orion's expansion plans. This wasn't just a leadership task, it was a proving ground. 2 days into her new role, Savannah stayed late, pacing in her office with the draft of the Titangate proposal in her hand. The numbers were solid, her team's recommendations were clear, but something about the language in the SLA felt off. The door clicked. She turned to see Adrian standing in the doorway, tie loosened, jacket folded over his arm. Everyone else has gone home, he said gently. Except you. She sank into her chair with a sigh. I think I'm forgetting how to breathe. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him, not the way a CEO visits a VP, but the way a man checks on someone he loves. What's going on? He asked, sitting across from her. She handed him the draft. Page 7. Look at the infrastructure override clause. Adrian scanned the text, his brow furrowed. They buried a unilateral control clause in the event of service interruption. Exactly, Savannah said. If we don't catch this, we're handing over emergency authority of our cloud systems. Adrian leaned back. That's deliberate. Of course it is. But if I push too hard, they'll call me combative. If I don't push at all, I'm irresponsible. He met her eyes. Savannah, you don't have to become someone else to sit at that table. You don't have to sound tougher or colder. You're not in this position because you fit a mold. You're in it because you broke it. Her eyes burned, but she blinked fast. Okay, she said softly. Then I'll do this my way. The negotiation with Titangate took place in the Skyview boardroom's leak, sterile and intimidating, perched on the top floor like a throne room. Savannah walked in flanked by 2 senior directors from Orion. She wore a storm gray suit and a calm, unreadable expression. Across from her, the Titangate delegation shuffled papers, their smiles professionally thin. The opening exchanges were cordial, surface level. By the time they reached the service clause discussion, the air had cooled. Savannah laid her hand flat on the table. Let's talk about the override clause, she said. One of the Titangate executives chuckled. Yes, legal protection. Standard language. Not standard, Savannah said. Strategic. It gives you control of our failover pathways in the event of a Tier 1 outage, which we'd only invoke in an emergency, and you decide what qualifies as one. Savannah finished calmly. That's unacceptable. The room shifted. One of the Orion directors looked at her, impressed. You'd rather we default to blackout protocol? The Titangate rep asked. I'd rather we build a system together, not a hostage situation. Savannah replied. Either the clause goes, or the deal does. Silence. Then the lead negotiator nodded. We'll revise the language. The news spread fast. Within 48 hours, Savannah's name was being whispered with admiration. Executives from multiple departments reached out to ask for her input on system policies. Her inbox filled with invitations to speak at upcoming panels and leadership forums. At lunch, her optimization team toasted her with sparkling water and spring rolls. To VP Lynn, Noah said, still the sharpest blade in the room. She smiled, warm and humbled. But even as accolades piled up, Savannah remained grounded because she remembered how easily insecurity could rise when no one was looking. That night, Adrian invited her to a quiet dinner in the garden behind his townhouse. String lights danced between branches, and soft jazz played from a Bluetooth speaker. I heard what you did in the Titangate meeting, he said after the first course. You were incredible. I was terrified, she confessed. You didn't look it. I was. But I kept hearing your voice in my head. He looked up. What was I saying? That I didn't have to change to be taken seriously. Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. I love the way you fight for what you believe in, he said. But more than thought, he loved that you're still you, no matter where you are. They sat in silence for a moment, their fingers intertwined. Then Savannah said something she hadn't even realized she was ready to say. I love you too. Adrian stilled, then smiled, like the words had been waiting all this time. The next morning, Savannah stood before the mirror in her new office, adjusting her blazer. No more hiding, no more doubting, no more wondering if she belonged. She was VP Lynn now. But she was also Savannah, the woman who had once walked into this building terrified to speak above a whisper. Now she led meetings, negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts, and held the heart of a man who saw her for exactly who she was. She touched the corner of the planter by the window and whispered, let's build something extraordinary. And then she turned to face the day. Spring came early that year. Seattle's skyline gleamed under unexpected sunshine, and the city buzzed with anticipation for the annual Pacific Tech Leaders Conferencia multi-day summit that attracted journalists, VCs, engineers, and executives from across the West Coast. Orion Technologies had never played a major role in the past, but this year, with performance metrics soaring and buzz surrounding their innovative optimization engine, they were invited to present at the keynote panel. Savannah Lynn was selected to represent them. Her face, alongside 5 other tech leaders, appeared on the conference website, framed in bold blue type, redefining scalability, voices at the edge of innovation, and below that, Vice President, System Optimization, Orion Technologies. The moment the announcement went live, her inbox overflowed. Journalists requested interviews. Podcast producers reached out. LinkedIn filled with messages from old classmates and former clients. But it wasn't the public that rattled her. It was the knowledge that somewhere is going to connect dots about her, about Adrian, about how she had risen, how quickly. She tried not to think about it, but whispers had weight, and sometimes they cracked the air like thunder. It happened on a Thursday. An op-ed dropped on an industry blog with a headline that felt like a slap. Nepotism in tech. Are we rewarding romance over results? The article never named her directly, but it didn't have to. It described a rapidly promoted female VP at a Seattle-based firm and her rumored relationship with the CEO. It was loaded with insinuations, not accusations. But the damage was done. Savannah read it alone in her office, jaw tight, heart pounding. She had expected rumors. She hadn't expected this. Public speculation disguised as journalism, undermining her work, her character, her worth. There was a knock at the door. It was Adrian. He already knew. She didn't say anything when he walked in. He crossed the room, closed the blinds, and sat on the edge of her desk. They crossed a line. He said simply, it was only a matter of time. Savannah replied, her voice eerily calm. They didn't use your name. They didn't have to. Adrian's fists clenched. I can call legal, issue a statement, demand a retraction. No, she said, don't. He looked at her, stunned. Savannah, if we respond with threats, it confirms their suspicion that we have something to hide. I won't give them that satisfaction. He was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? Savannah took a breath. Speak. For myself. The panel stage was massive set beneath shimmering spotlights, flanked by enormous projection screens. Rows of chairs stretched endlessly into the ballroom. Savannah sat at the end of the long table, wearing a steel gray blazer and black slacks, a small Orion Technologies pin on her lapel. The moderator opened with questions about scalability, distributed systems, and collaborative design. Savannah spoke with precision and depth, clear, confident, and unflinching. Then it happened. A man in the audience at credentials lanyard swinging stood up during the Q&A. He didn't introduce himself, just spoke. Do you believe rapid promotions in your industry are ever tied more to personal connections than professional merit? The room tensed. Savannah paused, slowly turned to face him, and smiled. I think assumptions are dangerous, she said, especially assumptions made by people who don't sit at the table, don't read the code, and don't track the metrics. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. But since you asked, she continued, her voice clear, I believe in letting performance speak for itself. I believe in results, in accountability, in integrity. She held his gaze. I didn't get to where I am by accident. I got here because I earned it. Applause broke out, slow at first, then thunderous. Later that night, she returned to her hotel room. Adrian was waiting inside the off, eyes wide with pride. I saw the clip, he said. You burned the place down. She kicked off her heels, dropped her blazer on a chair, and leaned into his chest. I was terrified, she murmured. You didn't show it. I didn't want you to defend me. I know. I needed to do it myself. He kissed her temple. And you did. You were magnificent. She stepped back, searching his face. Are you sure this is still worth it? She asked softly. All of it. He cupped her face. You're not a liability to me, Savannah, he said. You're the greatest asset in my life. The redefinition of strength. 2 days later, the blog that had originally posted the op-ed published a follow-up article, When Brilliance Speaks Louder Than Gossip, a lesson in leadership from Savannah Lynn. And this time, her name was there, right where it belonged. 6 months passed, the dust settled, the gossip faded, but Savannah Lynn's name did not. Her keynote clip had gone viral in professional circles. Her clarity, her refusal to shrink, and the unshakable calm with which she diffused the challenge had made her a quiet symbol of merit over assumption, of women claiming space not through defensiveness, but through undeniable proof of capability. She now sat on 2 advisory boards, guest lectured at Stanford's Women in Tech program, and had been shortlisted for the West Coast Executive to Watch list. Orion Technologies was thriving, and so, in most ways, was she. But one thing hadn't changed. Yet her hours with Adrian were still stolen, tucked in the quiet corners of their increasingly demanding lives. Their relationship was real, but it was still hidden, not because they were afraid, but because they were uncertain of how much space they were allowed to take, of how much the world would forgive, of how far they could stretch without snapping something fragile and irreparable. One Thursday evening, it all came to a head. Savannah's office was bathed in blue dusk when Dr. Harperlin knocked and stepped inside. You have a visitor, she said, raising an eyebrow. Savannah looked up. Now, I think you'll want to take this one. She stepped aside, and in walked Lena Hartwell, who of Parallax Systems, a rising tech conglomerate known for scooping up top talent and launching billion-dollar initiatives. Savannah stood instantly. Miss Hartwell, Lena, please, the woman said, extending a hand. I've been following your work for months. You're impressive. Thank you. That means a lot. Lena sat, crossed one leg elegantly over the other. I'll get to the point. We're building something big. A cross-platform AI interface with universal optimization layers. We want you to lead it. Savannah blinked. You're offering me, Chief Technology Officer, Lena said. Global team. 7-figure salary. You'd write the rules. From the ground up. Savannah's throat went dry. I need you to understand something, Lena continued. This isn't just a title, it's a legacy role. You'd be shaping systems that touch every sector from logistics to healthcare. I think you're ready. I think you're the one. Savannah felt her world tilt. Give me a week, she said, voice measured. Of course, Lena replied. But I should warn you, opportunities like this don't circle back. That night, she sat across from Adrian on his balcony, Seattle lights flickering behind them like a galaxy waiting for answers. She told him everything. Adrian didn't interrupt, didn't flinch, didn't blink. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. That's huge, he said. It's terrifying, she admitted. He nodded. But not impossible. I love what I've built here, she said. But this is everything I never dared ask for. Adrian looked at her, long and quietly. You should take it, he said. Her chest tightened. Just like that. I won't stand in your way, Savannah. I never have. I never will. She swallowed hard. But what about us? That depends, he said softly, on whether we want to keep being something the world whispers about or something we define on our own terms. Her brows pulled together. What are you saying? I'm saying, he said, reaching into his coat pocket and pulling out a small velvet box, that if you take this job, I'll fly to you every weekend if I have to. I'll wait for you to settle in. I'll find work there, or I'll bring you coffee from across the country. Whatever it takes. He opened the box. Inside, a ring. Simple, elegant, completely Savannah. I'm saying, Adrian whispered, that you can be CTO. You can be a world changer. You can be a CEO. But if you still want me beside you, at the end of the day, I'm here. Always. Savannah stared at him, stunned, moved. I don't need saving, she said. I know, Adrian said. I just want to walk beside you while you save yourself. Her eyes filled. Her voice broke. Yes, 2 weeks later. Headlines flashed across every major tech news outlet. Savannah Lin joins Parallax Systems as Chief Technology Officer. The former VP of Orion and viral keynote speaker steps into a legacy-defining role. And right beside that announcement was a second power couple in tech. Savannah Lin and Adrian Wolf confirm engagement. There were whispers, but there was also because Savannah had rewritten the story. She hadn't climbed by clutching onto anyone. She had built her own staircase deliberate, defiant step at a time. And at the top, she hadn't stood alone. Savannah's name now lived on patents, press releases, and industry awards. She wore the title of CTO like armor and truth. She walked into boardrooms with a ring on her finger and no apology in her eyes. She didn't whisper anymore. Not when she spoke. Not when she led. Not when she loved. She and Adrian married in a small garden ceremony overlooking the sound, with fairy lights tangled in tree branches and her former Orion team cheering in the front row. During her vows, Savannah said, "You didn't give me strength. You reminded me it was always there. And because of you, I believed I was worth building a life around, not hiding from." And Adrian said, "I didn't fall in love with your perfection. I fell in love with your fear, your courage, your voice. And I'll spend the rest of my life reminding you how powerful it is." They didn't live happily ever after. They built happily, together,